Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wolverine podcast, a post-game deluxe edition. You guys got one last night. Quick from me, myself, Anthony Broom, across the street from Michigan Stadium. As promised, we are back with Ryan Van Bergen to start our Labor Day Sunday. A lot to soak in from Michigan's 34-17 win over New Mexico in the opener. And just to lead, Ryan, last night when I went live, we took a lot of questions and people, because that game was so dense and there was so much to take in. I kept answering with, hey, on that, I'm going to have to go back and watch. On that, I'm going to have to go back and watch. You come to us this morning with the benefit of having done a rewatch. So I guess we'll start with this. First of all, thanks for coming back for another football season. And also, I guess, just your thoughts in a nutshell of what that opener was for you upon second viewing.
For what it's worth, I think everybody should do themselves a solid because the Lions don't play today. So go back and rewatch this Michigan game because there is so much. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised. I figured, what are you going to get out of a game like this? But I took a lot back from offense, defense, position by position. There was a lot to digest in this game. And to be honest, I spent all my time watching the game. I haven't been on Twitter or any of the social medias. So I don't know what everybody else's opinion is, but I've gotten a lot to digest on both sides of the ball, and I feel like there's a lot to be excited about. There's definitely some areas of concern or where we need some development. There's also a couple things that have me kind of scratching my head. So I would recommend to anyone who's considering watching the game, rewatching the game, go do that before you formulate your full opinion because there's a lot to take in from this game.
Well, let's start there then. What were your impressions upon a first watching it live?
It's impossible not to say that Bryce Underwood and the way that his ball releases from his hand and the velocity and the spin rate and the quickness, I mean, for being a 6'4" guy, I was thinking there's no way I'm going to be surprised or that I'm going to buy the hype that I've heard everybody else have. And I got nothing besides jaw on the floor, and it's all real. I mean, this kid is unbelievable. I've had a privileged football career where I got to chase and miss, but chase and also sack Terrell Pryor. I got to play with Cam Newton at Carolina, one of the most freakiest of freaks that's ever played the game. Bryce Underwood's in that category. There's no doubt about it. And I wasn't expecting to be as wowed by him as I was. And then you go back and you watch the game, and he had a couple passes, of course, that you should never throw across the middle, across his body. And he had, there's freshman mistakes that are going to exist. But in college football on Saturday, I don't know that I'd want another guy as my QB1. And you can go across the league. Bryce Underwood is special, and he pops right away to someone who's been around a lot of football. That's probably the biggest thing that I was like, couldn't believe how much of a mark it made on me who doesn't get stargazed. It's all real. The other things, I think, no surprise, but Justice Haynes looked great. Offensive line looked pretty solid. Hard to evaluate exactly what that is. We got some specimens at receiver I want to talk about because I feel like the guys at receiver on the edge, we didn't hear enough of their name, and those guys look impressive just by their off the bus factor. And then defensively saw a lot of names, a lot of new bodies. I'm sure people want to know. New Mexico got a little bit more than we probably wanted them to. Why'd that happen? What's going on with Jayshon Barnum? Do we know anything? So a lot to take in.
All right, well, a lot to get to here, obviously. We will start with the offense. But before we get into the offense, just a quick programming note. We said this on the live show last night, which was just me, quick reactions for about a half hour. If you guys want to go back and watch that, it's on our YouTube channel and your podcast feeds everywhere. So a little bit of a different dynamic from us this year. On night games, you and I will come back and record on the morning. For like 3:30 games, it'll be later that evening. And when we have noon games, and I hope we have as many noon games as possible for a number of reasons, you and I will be together at Blue Lion Fitness, which is your business, and you guys just moved to a new location. I know that's super exciting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you guys have going on over there?
Yeah, we're very excited. Year 11 in business here in the Ann Arbor area, and just moved into a new facility twice as big as far as indoor square footage. And it's already going really well, but we're excited about the opportunity to add more new business, and very excited to see some of the things that we've done in terms of youth athletics. I know we're getting excited about college football, but high school football and high school sports in general are getting kicked back off. And we always love seeing some of the athletes that we work with. We work with athletes all demographic ranges from middle school and early elementary all the way up to senior citizens and pickleball champions. But it's always exciting to be able to add some of the new business with the new facility that we've had. And you'd be surprised at what our coaches can do for you based on your own athletic experience. I know there's a lot of misconceptions that we only work with professional athletes. We're very intense. We like that persona, but you'd be surprised that we can tailor an approach to each individual athlete, both in personal training and in classes. We can individualize your experience. So if you haven't looked us up on an app, we have an app on the App Store. Or if you haven't looked us up on MindBody, which is another platform, come check us out, do a class.
Awesome. I'm excited to check it out in a couple weeks. Michigan CMU 2 weeks from now, a noon game. So we'll be over there and do our maiden voyage from Blue Line. Excited about that. So offensively, obviously you just heaped praise upon Bryce Underwood, and that's going to be the headlining thing. I said on last night's show that it's pretty apparent to me. First off, this guy turned 18 now that we record Sunday, 12 days ago. So he just turned 18 years old. He looks the part coming off the bus, although he was the first guy off the bus and went the wrong way in one of the videos that I saw on Twitter. That was kind of funny. But he looks good, not relative to a freshman. He just looks good already, extremely advanced. Seems like he knows where to put the football. Doesn't, when you have that gunslinger mentality, there are always going to be plays where you want to have back a couple times where the ball is in harm's way. But overall, just this advanced knowledge of where to go with the ball, how to place it, where to place it. Still working on velocity and taking speed off here and there. But when you look at this Michigan offense and Chip Lindsey comes in as the new coordinator. I think the narratives coming into the game are that, all right, they're going to kind of ease him in. Maybe he throws 15 times, but this is going to be vintage Michigan and vintage smash football, and they're going to get the run game going. And they did, but they let this guy throw the rock around a lot early on. And, he comes out of this game 21 of 31, 251 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. And 3-4 of those incompletions were straight up drops. So, again, obvious caveats apply. It's New Mexico. It's the first game of the season. But last night reinforced how special it looks like this kid is already, and what an incredible baseline to set for him and this passing game. I know you wanted to talk about the wide receivers too, but if you have any other thoughts on Bryce other than what we just talked about, I could not have been more impressed. It was very, very cool to see that right out of the box.
One of the things to make sure, I think, to give as another flower for Bryce is I was really worried about both offensively and defensively. First game, you worry about the execution, pre-snap execution. Are guys getting lined up correctly? Are you getting the right motions? Or guys throwing their hands out, clapping over here, over there? Hey. I personally hate that. It's great. It's terrible body language. It gives your opponent an advantage. It's something that as a player used to bother me. Even if we don't have our shit right, don't let them know. Like, let's get together on the sideline and get right. But I'm telling you, people are going to be like, "Oh my God, get away from Bryce Underwood." But I'm so impressed. Not only did he throw the ball well and make good decisions 85% of the time, which is all you can expect from any quarterback, let alone a freshman. He's jumping around. He's smiling. He's having fun. All of his guys are lined up. Did we have a delay of game? I don't believe we had a delay of game. He knew his scheme. He knew his offense. He knew where his guys were supposed to be. The throws were on time. He threw a touch pass to a slot wheel. I don't remember if it was Klein that was down that wheel route, but that's a really tough pass to throw. He just kind of flicked it, just like he was having fun. And it's just, what a crazy weapon I feel like to have at the helm of our offense. He is dangerous. Now, he made 2 3 throws that I don't think you want to make, but that's where you want to err. If you have a guy, he can't be perfect. You have a guy come in and be a freshman quarterback starter, and your dynamic with him is Sharon Moore is, hey kid, you played awesome, but you made a couple knucklehead moves. That's what you're looking for. That's success. That's what you want the meeting today to be like. I'm sure that's what it's going to be like. So, yeah. And then the other thing that I feel like we didn't see, which I love, is his athleticism. One thing that lacked from yesterday's game was, did he have, which I'm thankful for again, but did he have any rushing yards? I feel like we've consistently put quarterbacks at risk unnecessarily and give Chip his flowers. We gave Bryce Underwood great decisions, open reads, took care of the football easily, didn't have to make decisions to do that. Not enough good things can be said, and there will be faults. He will come down, but let's just enjoy that this is a fun part of having a kid like Bryce Underwood.
And I didn't think we'd see him throw a block on a touchdown run before we saw him take off with the football on his own. I mean, you don't want your quarterback doing that. That said, 18-year-old first game for this program, that'll play, and that got people really excited, and I'm sure it did for you as well.
One more thing. Sorry, I wanted to say one more thing because there was a point I was making yesterday at all the tailgates that I feel like he doesn't know I was saying it, but I know I was saying it, and it makes me feel like he's going to be able to fit in. One thing I was worried about with a Bryce Underwood share a concern is he's the type of kid that playing football from Pee Wee through junior high through high school has been a guy that has probably won MVP 10 years in a row. And he's probably used to putting 30, 40 points on the scoreboard in order for that to be what happens and win these championships. So one of my concerns coming into this game is he going to be able to just throw change up or just fit and be the piece that we need in order for the offense to execute? Because we don't need Bryce Underwood to just put the whole offense on his shoulders and trudge us down the field. We got plenty of stuff and help around him, even more so than we've had in the past. So I had this concern pregame of whether or not he'd be able to handle it. And what a game manager. And that just totally blew me away too. And I know we're going to move on. There's more segments to talk about, but did not expect that from a guy who is a human highlight reel. I'm waiting for him to try to force the touchdown. I just didn't see that and thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, we could do the whole half hour or 45 minutes on Bryce Underwood alone. I was going to say, to your point, and that's a good segue into this. The most impressive thing about not just his performance, but this Michigan offense in general is that they have options, and he is not afraid to, a lot of times with young quarterbacks and even older quarterbacks, you lock in on your first read and you put it somewhere no matter what. He had 21 completions last night to 8 different receivers, and you saw the vision already. Like a guy like Samaj Morgan stock up with a guy like Bryce Underwood at quarterback, and in Chip Lindsey's system as well. Marlon Klein, I've been saying all summer, hey, if you get like a Luke Schoonmaker type of season out of him, that's going to be pretty good. He looked like Colston Loveland on Saturday night. So again, one game, we'll leave the superlatives where they are, but the menu of options in the passing game and his comfortability with going to any of those guys was impressive. And that goes into, I think, the next talking point here is the offense at large. This early in the season, coming out of fall camp, your offensive identity is still very much taking place. And, this is a true freshman quarterback, brand new play caller, building this from the ground up. And I think maybe the most impressive thing was that, how many shows did you and I do last year? Forget week 1, week 7, 8, 9, all the way through the Alabama game, where even just getting a first down through the air or even on the ground felt like it was pulling teeth. Now you have a baseline. Yeah, there were ups and downs. The second quarter, really across the board for the team, wasn't great, but you have those peaks and valleys there. But this offense has options in the passing game. You have a weapon at quarterback, and Justice Haynes, my golly, 16 carries, 159 yards, 3 touchdowns in his debut, runs of 59 and 56 yards in the game. Right before Michigan started going portal shopping, there was some buzz that if this guy came available, it was going to be someone that they might be interested in. And they made a nice, hefty NIL investment to make that happen and close the deal. And I still think very highly of Jordan Marshall. He's going to be good. This is a 1A and 1B backfield. He didn't have a great night on Saturday, but this was why you brought in a guy like that. I think that Justice Haynes, both as a runner, as a pass catcher, can be for this offense what we kind of hope Donovan Edwards would be as this dual threat, lightning in a bottle playmaker.
It's exciting to have someone that is a home run hitter and also has the ability to take contact and get 3, 4, 5 yards, be a red zone guy. Seems very utilitarian and can do a lot of the different things that you need from your back. And I think Jordan Marshall, you're going to feel a little bit better with him in between the tackles, an A-gap, B-gap style run. And Justice Hayes, you feel a little bit better with him making his way out to C-gap and getting out. But both of them had great days. I think Jordan Marshall didn't have the breakout like Justice Haynes did, but they did well in pass pro. They did well on play action fake. They did well on route running. They took care of the ball. There was all the opportunities to come out and try and have – I always worry about this in home openers, but there's always the opportunity to come out and just try to do too much and have fumbles, uncharacteristic, things that are out of character for you, and no one had that, at least that I saw. So both of those guys played well, and you feel good about them both having shared reps that consistently throughout the season, neither one of them should be at such a high volume that we don't have good backfield reps going in November and, when it counts.
I know you said you wanted to gas up the wide receivers a little bit. Talk about what you saw there and with those passing game options that we talked about.
Well, for the Wolverine fans that aren't aware of the transfer portal receivers that we've gotten in, to see them in person, I was shocked. I did not know. What is McCulley's first name? Excuse me, but McCulley number one. Dante? Donovan, he's taller than me, I think. I don't know if he's listed at 6'4" or 6'5", but sure, he had cleats and helmets on. But when he came in, I was like, who's this guy? And as he walked out now, I'm sure New Mexico probably doesn't necessarily have the rangiest of corners. I thought they played well. I don't want to sit here and poo-poo on New Mexico. I thought they played really well and played really hard for what that's worth. But McCulley is a matchup problem. McCulley's bigger than Klein out there on the edge. And they say he's got speed and got separation. We just didn't get him an opportunity. But he's a guy that I would love to see this kid get 8, 10, 12 targets and see what happens, because if he is what they say he is, he looks like he is what they say he is. And, watching him warm up and stuff, he looks very fluid for that size. He does move really well. That's why I think it's surprised when he got up on me and it was my size. But I think that's a guy that we've got to see what he can do. And I think Goodwin played well on the other side. If I'm being honest, to throw some thorns onto the flowers that I've been giving out, I'm going to come out and say it. And I know he's a flashy guy, so I'd love for him to put up numbers to make me shut up. I don't understand why we're being force-fed Samaj Morgan. I really don't understand why he's the punt returner, kick returner. We're going to give him the jet sweep. We're going to give him the screen pass. We're going to give him the – what is so special about Samaj Morgan that is someone else can't do, or there was someone else – those touches should be his? Because I just haven't seen whatever it is that Samaj Morgan's supposed to be bringing for us. And I'm not against Samaj. I do think he should be out there on offense, and we should use him sparingly in time-to-time situation. But it seems like every possession we got to get Samaj a touch. And to me, that's doing a disservice to some of these other guys that you've recruited. There is some talent out there at the receiver position.
Yeah, McCulley's interesting because he caught, I think, 48 passes a couple years ago at Indiana. Last year, so after 2023, he has like an all Big Ten caliber season in Indiana, hits the transfer portal. Michigan has interest. He winds up back at Indiana, falls out of favor is the right way to put it, but for whatever reason, not in the mix with new head coach Curt Cignetti. He enters the portal after 4 games. Michigan prioritizes him. And, the reason they did that is because, and this is not the one-to-one comparison, but they felt like his size and athleticism could add a dimension to their offense that they hadn't had since Nico Collins had been here. And maybe that's the one disappointment I have last night with the passing game is we didn't really see them go down the field, so to speak, to him. Bryce hit Channing Goodwin on that post route on 3rd and 14. obviously one of the highlights of the game, a huge moment for them. There was another play where, if Andrew Marsh, who had the fumble on the kick return, he turns around and looks for a football. Bryce has him right there, and he's got two defenders split. That's probably a touchdown. So a couple things left on the field there, but yeah, Samaj is interesting because I see the vision. I see how they can use him. Is he a guy that, is he a guy you want 7, 8, 9 touches a game? I'm not sure about that. It seems like they've got a plan for how to use him, but I do think when this passing game is humming, it's going to be McCulley and to a certain extent too, Marlon Klein. Talked about him earlier. Was really impressed with what we saw with him at tight end, especially a lot of people said Hogan Hansen is the best pass catcher of that group. He didn't play last night. Marlon Klein looks like he's put in the work as a guy that can be a nice safety valve as well.
Tight end position, has always been something that I feel like Michigan could put their hat in the ring in terms of tight end U. Everybody likes to be the U of something, and Michigan's got a couple of them. But tight end U, I saw a decline to me. Instead of Colson Loveland with the leaner route runner type, I saw a little bit more of like the Jake Butt is what I thought I compared him to when Jake Butt was at his prime at Michigan career. And that's a huge, tip of the cap to both of them. But I've thought that he'd be a guy that could step in and make plays. We got him, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Klein, even in maybe the TCU game, if he was around during then, but as a freshman, they found a way to get him in and get him touches. He's a guy that I know can impact a game positively. And then, talking about the run game, offensive line, as we're kind of transitioning that way, these tight ends, Klein specifically, Bredesen, a lot of those the big runs specifically that Justice Haynes had were because those two guys had tremendous blocks. And they're a matchup problem. A lot of people don't maybe understand personnel, but you hold up the cards, 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 22 personnel, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. Bredesen, Klein, some of these guys give people problems because is it tight end? Is it 21? Is it 12? What's personnel? And then they come out in this wing, and then they shift the wing because Bryce Underwood understands that as a freshman. And, they cause a lot of matchup problems. And Klein, I think, is going to have that opportunity throughout. And I know we want to probably finish off the offensive segment, but that was one of the areas we struggled defensively. And I feel like matchup-wise, something to consider is I don't know who's going to guard Klein as we move through Big Ten play and get closer to that. But at the same time, we've got to be able to guard tight ends at the linebacker position. So it's interesting. It seems like a position that if you have, it's always a great outlet and it's a great body target. Everybody loves a good tight end on 3rd and 4th. They can just check it down to. So I see Bryce Underwood and Klein developing a relationship that, maintains and just grows throughout the year.
We'll close out the offense with the offensive line, the group that probably, outside of some of these playmaking spots, probably the biggest question mark on this entire roster. Last year was up and down. You had some highlights in there, but overall, I think a lot to be desired. Saturday night, I felt like I haven't had the benefit of the rewatch yet, so I'll defer to you here. I thought there were a lot more obviously, like when you have the big runs that a guy like Justice Haynes did, really good stuff on both of those plays. I thought inconsistent though, especially on the interior. Blake Frazier came in at right tackle at one point, which was kind of interesting. We thought that Andrew Sprague was sort of locked in to that job, but what do you make of the offensive line starting point compared to where they started out last year?
Compared to where they started out last year, they're better. They're better when we were last year. I feel confident in that. Are they where they need to be to win a Big Ten championship and compete for a national championship? No, that's not where we're at. We don't need to be there. Game 1 either. So mixed bag on the offensive line. The rewatch helped a lot. I highly recommend the rewatch to see the offensive line. But if you watch what we did, a lot of times our good, solid runs came over the left side. El Hadi, Alan Link, Crippen, I think, is doing a really good job at center. To me, your 2 biggest positions that you need on the offensive line is going to be your left tackle and your center. If those 2 guys can play well, you need other guys around them. But if those 2 guys are poor, it's going to be hard to hide them. So Crippen had a good game. I think Alan Link has settled in and handled his job really, really nicely. El Hadi, I think, obviously played pretty good. But the right side, we didn't get a lot of movement. They did okay in pass pro. They passed off some games, and they had solid one-on-one reps. But if you watch, I kept thinking it was Sprague, but what's the last name for the right tackle? Sprague? Is it?
Honestly, I feel like every time I say his name, I say it differently. So
No disrespect. I just thought it was Sprague. But Sprague and Norton, there wasn't a lot of push. And again, New Mexico played very well, but I think one of their biggest issues when I looked across their team was that they don't have any size at the defensive line. There's not a lot of talent in the front seven box for New Mexico. So a little concerning to see Norton and Sprague struggling a little bit in run block, not getting a lot of movement, hats that are really high, shoulders that are turning, no longer, you want to stay parallel to the goal line. You don't want to get your shoulders turned unless you're getting movement. And these guys right away are getting those shoulders turned. And there's got to be some development and growth. They have the size, the ability. They look like Big Ten offensive linemen. So they need coached up, and it's game one. But as you look at around places for things where there's gaps, not many balls to the edges like we were talking about, not seeing what our receivers can do. And then that right side of the offensive line, especially in run scheme, was a little bit of a liability. But the left side did look good. And overall, I thought we did a good job keeping Bryce comfortable with how many throws he had. Chip did a really good job, just another little credit thing. But how many times did he roll him left, roll him right, keep him center, roll him left, roll him right, keep him center? The pocket was never in the same spot. I would never want to rush against Bryce Underwood and what Chip was doing with him. So they hid the O-line. Good job. You hid the O-line, but I saw it. And the right side, we've got some concerns.
Got the Pro Football Focus grades pulled up. Our Clayton Safe, you'll have something on the site for that later. But to your point about El Hadi and Link, two guys have grades in the green for this game. So I'll take that from them, given that last year was not so great. Now you got a couple guys in the yellow, a couple guys in the deeper orange. A lot of work that needs to be done, but a solid start for them as well. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. That was a strange game for them because this is where, Ryan, people watching live were freaking out, saying like, this looks like Wink Martindale's defense early last year, and what a disappointing night. And then you go in and you look at the box score. And like you said, their tight end had 10 catches for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's way too much, but still pretty dominant in all the areas. The 28 rushes for 50 yards. New Mexico's running game and their backs was the strength of their team coming into this game. So you did your job there. Defensively, this game is kind of skewed by one. You had the drive that ended in a fake field goal, which tip of the cap, awesome, incredibly ballsy call by them. Give them all the credit in the world. And then the second touchdown drive that they allowed, you had the Jayshon Barham targeting, and then you had a couple penalties. You had, some busts in coverage. It was really two bad drives throughout the entire night, which you don't make an excuse for that. It's New Mexico, but overall, I'd have to think a second watch was a little more comforting, though. Obviously, you want to see them come out and be a little bit better in week one.
I would like to say one thing that I didn't like about the offense is I don't understand, which maybe just put it on film, okay, but I'm watching this closely. We had some like race car tempo that I didn't love. Mainly because you're in a position where you don't want to get Bryce Underwood too many reps or some of these running backs too many reps, and you don't want to get your defense out there for too long. Rich Rod used to do that stuff, and I hate that quick tempo and get the defense back out there thing. So little concerning there. Defense was out there a little more than we needed to be because of the up tempo. Don't love that. But overall, I mean, you're looking, you can tell that they're searching. They're rifling through guys. And one of the things I heard on the broadcast on the rewatch was, they've got so many guys on the defensive line that are good, that are talented, that they can rotate 8, 9, 10 guys. And that's all well and good. But I am going to kind of die on the hill that there should be a clear starter, and there should be a clear 1, and then there's a 2. or a backup to both the ones. I played that role my freshman year to Tim Jamison and Brandon Graham. But like to say that you're equal through all 10 guys that rotate, I don't think that's a good thing. I think that to me, that either tells me that you haven't developed somebody to be better or you're not specific enough in what you have your guys doing. There's times where me personally, I fit in a bunch of different areas, but I'm a 5 technique between the tight end and tackle because we know they like the C-gap run, and I'm a bigger end. And then I kick down to 3 technique on the next play because they like to go pass pro and they don't want me on the edge. They want Brandon Graham out there, which makes sense, and me to absorb the double. So I don't think that it's necessarily that they have interchangeable this and interchangeable that. I don't think anyone's emerged. And that's to say I don't think anyone, it's right there. Just go grab it, young man. I think TJ Guy, we're waiting for him to be the guy, no pun intended. Derek Moore has got the C on his chest, and he I thought got off the ball really well, got to the quarterback, arrived there. You know, that one they called him out late, or he was early coming across the line of scrimmage. He had a beautiful move to get there, and it's legal a lot of times. But I'm not super worried about the edge position. I'm worried about the tackle position. I'm not super worried about the defense. The defense will tighten up. The Wink Martindale defensive scheme to me is more about can you limit Ohio State to 10 and their place versus can you limit New Mexico in the home opener and yours. So Wink gets a pass for me. And if that's foolish, it's foolish. But he gets a pass. The coverage was pretty good. We were a little bit, loose. And like I said, the tight end issue, that's the one thing that I will say was a concern. Ernest Hausman, I love him. Tremendous linebacker, but I worry about him in coverage every now and again. I don't love that Jay-Sean Barnum's out because I hope we get an appeal or something there. I don't know if anything's happened since last night. But Jimmy Rolder, I love the man. He plays football like a monster. But I don't know that he's the best coverage guy in the world. So if we don't figure out how to get a little bit better in tight end coverage, especially against Oklahoma, it's going to hurt us. But in the season, it could prove to hurt us. But overall, my concern level is not high with the defense. I just want to see someone emerge from the defensive tackle position and, tighten up just a little bit in areas of coverage. But don't burn the couches. Everything's fine.
Would you more or less agree that it was kind of distorted by those 2 drives? Because that was really it.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and waste time people talking about the refs, but I do think that the refs extended some drives for New Mexico. I do think the targeting call at least needs to be reviewed a little bit because what are you going to do at some point when you're 6'5" and you're tackling a man that's 5'10"? How the are you supposed to get your helmet below his helmet without dropping your head into him? Like it's just, I don't know. That one really frustrated me.
Well, the problem that I have with it is I think that it's it's an overcorrection when it comes to preventing head injuries and things like that. If you want to toss the guy, whether we know what targeting is or you agree what targeting is, if that's what you call and you tack on the 15 yards and the guy's tossed from the game, that should be the end of it. And then if you're a repeat offender, it's like in the NBA where once you have a certain amount of technical fouls, you are suspended or you have to miss time. That's a football play. And I don't know what else he's supposed to do when you come screaming off the edge like that. And, so Sharon Moore did say last night, they're going to send it to the Big Ten office. They plan to appeal. I don't think the reversal rate is super high on those, but the one thing I will say is that if Jay-Sean Barham is not out there for the first half, I really liked what we saw from Cole Sullivan last night. For the action he did get, he was everywhere. He had 5 tackles. He had a sack. He had the interception. He's already kind of Barham's understudy. And I think in some ways, Barham's an absolute freak. Athletically, I would take him over Cole Sullivan. But I think that Cole Sullivan's a guy that is going to be someone we're talking about as one of the better players on this defense, probably sooner rather than later. So if that's the understudy for a half, it could be a lot worse. Obviously, you want to have Jay-Sean Barham out there. We'll see what happens. I think Ohio State last year had a situation where one of their guys had a targeting that was reversed midweek. So we'll keep our eyes on that. That looked like a football play to me. He wraps up, he leads with his shoulder. By virtue of it being football, yes, the helmet is close to each other, but he doesn't lead with the helmet. I think it looked a lot more violent live than it was, and we're overcorrecting something here.
I would also argue that something to be pointed to if I was legally, legislating this would be, if you watch, he goes through that rhythm of releasing the football to go to throw. That ball is about to be in front of his face. So the ball was about to be between their face masks if another millisecond passes by and it allows to happen. So that one was disappointing. I thought that was a disappointing call, such an impactful thing. And I mean, for him, he missed the whole second half. It was 13 minutes left in the third quarter when it happened. So he missed the whole second half, and now he's going to miss the whole first. He's going to miss the whole game for that. And it wasn't malicious. It wasn't. There was nothing about that wasn't at least football oriented. It wasn't. That at least I think is agreeable. But anyway, one thing I think that we need to hit before we're done today is the secondary looks nasty. The secondary has got some depth to it. I wasn't expecting it. It was a pleasant surprise. Shame on me for not following the recruiting and being as up to speed on the depth chart, spending too much time with my darn kids. But the secondary, we got some rangy guys, some long guys. Zeke Berry's not that, but other than that, everybody else is pretty sizable. I mean, we got a guy back there. I can't remember his name. I don't think he's a starter. Got into the waning hours last night around midnight when I was watching it. No, he's not on the starting depth chart. He's number 23 or 25, but he's about 6'4", 6'5", 205, 210.
Mason Curtis, number 25.
Mason Curtis. Where is this Taylor Mays? So back in my day for USC, there was a guy named Taylor Mays that everybody was afraid of because Taylor Mays and Dale Jarrett back in the day and those boys, they were nasty for Pete Carroll and USC. And Taylor Mays was 6'4", 220, and targeting didn't exist. And Taylor Mays used to lead with his helmet. This is the first guy I've seen that looked like Taylor Mays in a minute. This guy, what's his name again? I'm sorry. That's just not on my list.
I think he's going to be a favorite of this show because I love that guy too.
Okay, I'm about to say, oh man, because I found a guy that I really like to watch play. He brings the thunder. He puts his nose on the ball. He's got to watch out because he plays very physical, and the league is, obviously looking for targeting. But man, we got some sharks in the secondary, and I was not expecting the talent. Got so focused on Will Johnson and what he does and that island that he lived on. I didn't realize that we had built up 6-7 guys that we can rotate back there that I feel really good about in the secondary.
That's the one spot too about their ability to rotate is it's incredibly exciting, the options they have back. I said this last night watching the game. I thought that was going to be a good position because of a guy like Mason Curtis. Brandon Hillman had a hell of a night too. He's another guy that hits super hard. TJ Metcalf, the Arkansas transfer, got the nod at nickel. I thought we saw some good things from him. Those guys are fast and they will hit you and they get on you quickly. So that's going to be, and there's a lot of youth there. So there's a lot of upside with that too. So most exciting thing about that safety rotation, defensive back rotation is Rod Moore's probably coming back in the next couple of weeks, and they're trying to get him to 100%. He's really close to that. There was no reason to risk him in a game like that, but you drop him in for 15-ish snaps against Oklahoma and keep building on that. I'm excited about the back end of that defense and the combos and the optionality that they have there. So I don't have any other lingering defensive notes here. I think we pretty well covered it. Why don't we just start with, unless you
one guy I want to give a little shout out to because I think that he had a great game, but I might need some help with the name. Number 17 defensive tackle, Owu. It's not
Eno Eta.
Excuse me, no disrespect. Eno Eta. That's a guy that had a good game in limited snaps. Well, this guy I was watching pretty closely on the interior. And that was one place, again, where I thought we could use someone to kind of emerge as the guy, the Kenneth Grant, the Mason Graham, the anchor, the big, the not movable object, or the guy that can't be blocked. And he seemed like a guy that could challenge for that defensive tackle spot. Because to me, an emergence at the defensive tackle spot makes the whole defense elevate just that one more degree, one more step.
Awesome. I would totally agree. Since we're on defense, let's hand out a defensive game ball. Who gets your game ball? And that's maybe we just give it to Mason Curtis. That's both of our guys.
I did. I really like Mason Curtis. Hillman had a hell of a game and was very impactful as well. So I think I might go Hillman just to spread the love around. But the secondary, pleasant surprise and excited to see where they go.
Yeah, I'll, for the sake of being different, I will go with, hey, shut up. You talked about TJ Guy, super athletic tip drill, one-handed interception. We got to give some love to the guys up front there. So I'll go with him. Offensively, we'll flip a coin. Bryce Underwood, Justice Haynes, whoever you want to have, that could be your guy.
Well, and I'm flipping anyway because I knew we'd do this. I'm going to go Marlon Klein. Marlon Klein's been sitting and waiting for a long time, and is to me what I think the example of a new era college athlete is, that bides your time behind a guy that you know is a number one, going to be a high draft pick. You get your reps, you take what you can, and then when it's your turn, you grab that freaking spotlight and you don't give it away. And I think Marlon Klein's right on the precipice of being one of the best tight ends in the country. He might already be there. So did enough for me that he can have a game ball on top of one of the two that you picked.
Now, because we're not live and we're not doing questions like we normally would, I'm going to project and think of the question that we would have gotten to close out this show. And this is a good spot to end. Early impressions of Oklahoma. I haven't watched their game yet. They played Illinois State. They won 35-3. John Mateer, their transfer quarterback, 30 of 37, 392 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. I'm going to be interested in going and looking at that just based on the opponent, but something to keep an eye on with Oklahoma. Now, mind you, they played the Illinois State Redbirds on Saturday night. 32 rushes, 103 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. That's something. In these openers, you really can only put stock into something if it really doesn't look good. I think here's my hot take of the week, and I don't know how much you know about Oklahoma, but I think Michigan would be pretty content to let John Mateer drop back 40, 50 times next week if that's going to be what their game plan is.
This is going to sound hokey and corny, but it is what it is. With the way that Michigan is, new offensive coordinator, Wink in his second year with a lot of new guys on defense, to me, it's not about Oklahoma. Even though we're going to their place and playing against it, it has nothing to do with Oklahoma. Can we go do what we want to do, regardless of what they're going to do? And that's something that I'm interested to see. Bryce Underwood against a D coordinator or in defensive mind I really respect. And oh my God, is Brant or Chase? One of them is him and one of them is his son. But Venables, who's the head coach?
Brett Venables. Yeah.
Brett. Son Trent was one of his players. But I think that he's going to be a guy that can challenge Bryce Underwood cerebrally and give Chip some fits defensively. But I don't think it has anything to do with what Oklahoma does and what we do. Oklahoma can do whatever they want, and Wink should have the response for it defensively. I'd like to see them be able to move the ball at will against our defense. If they can do that, we're in trouble. But offensively, best of luck to you. And, Chip, don't make it easy on him. But good luck keeping Bryce Underwood from hurting you, because he is just a dangerous man with many knives. Good luck.
Yeah, I'll just say I think it's just going to be fun to see where this team is at. I think a lot of us, and again, Michigan can win every game it plays this year. It has that potential. I think a lot of us kind of mentally have it chalked up as, I won't say a loss, but if a loss happens, we're not going to be surprised by it. You're on the road. It's one of those showdown type of games. We know this team is young and has a lot to work on still. I'm just excited to see where they're at and if they're ready for this. If Bryce Underwood is ready for a stage like that, I think he's ready for the college football stage. But in week 2 of his career, is he a guy that can go down to Norman and pull a fast one? If they do that, then we're going to be having maybe different conversations this time next week. But I think an incredibly solid start to the year. I think there are things to clean up, but if there's not things to clean up in week 1, what kind of a football team are you? So that's going to do it for us. Ryan, thank you for your time here on a Sunday. It'll be a similar deal next week. I'll have a quick video from Norman after the game. We'll circle back on Sunday morning and do a show with the two of us. Excited to get back after it. Good to be back into the mix. And just like those guys, this week 1 for us too. So probably things to clean up on my end, but Ryan, any other final thoughts as we get out of here?
No, just enjoy the development as a fan and watch these kids go, and be patient, because I'm impressed with what we saw from week 1, but there's going to be a lot to learn from week 2. But it's okay to be excited about what this team could do and all that, but also understand there's so much youth that it's going to be some pain. There will be some pain upcoming, just know. But yeah, this will be a growing developmental year. It's exciting to see how awesome they could be, but don't get impatient, Michigan fan base. Let them cook.
Let them cook and let them grow. We will cook and grow as well. Be sure to like this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more from the Wolverine. If you want to hear immediate game afterthoughts from me, that's on the channel. It was kind of fun to do that and then come back and do this as well. So for Ryan Van Bergen and myself, Anthony Broom, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you again next week.